Cool. So today I have with me David. The reason I have David with me today is because my goal is to show another perspective for business owners. So, in the past now 15 years, I've been working, if it's my own franchisees and many other businesses that I started and built, and also working with other entrepreneurs. One of the things that to some degree drive me crazy is a lot of people believe that there is one way to go about business and solving problems and looking at opportunities. And my goal is to bring new perspective into the business world. That they're very business related, but sometimes people tend to separate them. So there is my personal development, there is my personal kind of process that I'm going through as a person, and then there is my business. And my goal today is to connect the two and see that there is many more ways to look at business opportunities, issues, and on and on and on. And David, beside that, is a dear friend, and we've been knowing each other now for some time, and we had a lot of conversations about overall kind of human existence, our limitation, our way of taking a limitation and creating them into a beautiful thing that we can bring into the world, into our life, and share with others. And what I really like about David's approach, that he was really good in breaking the process into steps, so it's much easier for people to follow. So David, why don't you kind of share with us your experience, more about who you are, and on and on.
Yeah, thank you, Idan. Thank you for that intro. And it's been so great as a brother along the path and dissecting life. So I do this similar really with personal development, where I've always been into peak performance. Like, how do we get into our peak state of performance? What does that mean? And when you get into personal growth, that's like the really exciting stuff. Maybe you get into biohacking or like productivity, but it's the same thing. Like, once you start walking down the path, you realize that healing, I don't even consider it so much healing, but like self-discovery, like doing that inner work on yourself is just as important as like doing the really exciting stuff of, getting into flow and 5xing your productivity and all the other, sexy stuff on the other side. But you're never going to be able to really unlock your greatness if you don't do this inner work. And that's where, I just like to call it, you can take your pain and you can turn it into soul gold. It's just like you said, we can reframe our perspectives on so many things in life and take our power back. It's really just, how do we empower ourselves to understand personal growth and the path? And this applies and trickles into everything that we do in life. So when we understand how to work with the process of transformation for ourselves, we can also apply it in our outer world and business and everything else, and then we can live more powerfully.
Yeah. Yes. I'm with you 1000%. Also from my own experience, most of my work, most of the growth in my business world, and also with my family, it's mainly inner work, and then everything around me just shifted. So, as I said in the beginning, I get to work with a lot of small business owner, businesses anywhere that do $200,000-$300,000 a year to businesses that do $15 to $20 million a year, and on and on. And many times with most business owner, with most people, there is very much the reactive mindset, right? And I'll give you some example. I'll have somebody that manage their business based on how much money they have in the bank, right? So it's very reactive. I can have a great month, but I don't have a lot of money in the business because I spend a lot of money. This is where the reactiveness is coming out. Oh, things are not working well. Everything is terrible, right? And they're not really looking at the bigger picture. Or I'll have somebody that have some issues with marketing, right? And instead of looking at, if that sales is maybe the type of leads that I'm generating, maybe it's the way I'm answering the phone calls, the way they usually react. Marketing is not good. I'm just going to shut down the marketing. And that small issue can, if you've been very reactive to it, can lead to 3 other issues. And then 3 other issues can lead into 6 other issues, right? So it's more like a small problem when I'm coming to it with a very reactive mindset, become a much bigger problem in the business. And my goal in this conversation is trying to pull the business owner out of the business. And like, hold on for 1 second before you're killing your own business. Let me pull you backward a little bit. And can we look at the bigger business, at the bigger picture, and really trying to figure out what's going on. But I think, and this is where I want our conversation to go, is how can we help business owners or minimize the amount of reactiveness in their business, right? And the thing that I want to hear from you is, even from a place that, how do I start the day? Kind of, how do I even get myself to a point that if an issue happens, if a problem comes in, I'm not in this reactive mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on a lot of things. So let's just go deep. Let's just jump right in right away. And I agree, you can really take two perspectives in life. And that is, like you said, the reactive versus the proactive. And another way to say that is the victim versus the creator. Right. So you can live life in a way where you are dictated by circumstance. You know, like something happens on the outside and that like gives you, or that dictates where you go in life, versus as I see everything as something I'm going to acknowledge if something is within my control. And if it's not in my control, I'm going to learn how to accept it, roll with it, because this is the process of transmutation, to turn it into something positive. Versus if you don't, what you're talking about is you have a hard situation, or you don't hit the marketing, you don't get the return on investment in the marketing strategy that you tried. And then you had something happen earlier, a hard conversation. And then because that hard conversation and that happens, you make a 180. And if you kind of step back from the situation and you're looking from a higher point of view, you would see like, oh, dang, I just got totally like pulled like a puppet string, like off the path, just because I had a bad day and it led to this other situation. And then I got more bad news. And instead of considering, like you said, all the possibilities of like really distilling down, like, what did we learn from this? What's working? What's not working? How do we move forward? Instead, the emotions kind of got in the way.
Right.
And that's we don't understand, you know, if we start to see ourselves as like break how we work, then you start to see how these things kind of stack on top of each other. But we're so used to it, it's just like an unconscious way that we go through things.
Right. So when you're saying, and I think that will be a big one for, you know, as I'm hearing you, I'm thinking about all the conversation that I had with the business owners, is give example of things that we can control compared to things that we cannot control.
Yeah.
So when you're saying, what do you mean?
Here's a big distinction. Because like what I do is I help a lot of people go from high performance, which is almost like hustle mode as a business owner, to their peak state of performance, which a key distinction here is to understand process versus outcome. So you can be outcome oriented, which, you know, it does serve its place in business. But you touched on exactly what happens when you attach your self to the outcome versus the process. Because what, at the end of the day, Don, what's in your control? How things work out in life, or how you show up and work on the process, whether that's you or your business.
Yeah, how I show up, 1000%.
Yeah, and there's a quote, you know, people run processes and processes run business. Right. So if you can really, like, if there's one thing you could walk away with today, it would be that. Understand to focus your effort on the process, and then you can kind of let go of the expectations with the outcome. You're gonna set yourself up for success. Right. Because you become process oriented. This goes for personal productivity. This goes for marketing systems, for sales, for anything in business. If you simply focus on optimizing the process and you don't allow yourself to ride the emotional roller coaster of outcomes,
that's a big one.
You're on the roller coaster and you're not in control. You know, you're being a victim of circumstance. because your emotions are so tied to the outcome, versus if you can focus your energy, tension, effort on the process and just learn to kind of accept. I know it's not easy sometimes. You really had that big marketing strategy and you knew it was going to hit out the park and it didn't, and you felt all the feelings. I've been there. I had a business myself. But if you could really just shift your main focus to the process, then you're setting yourself up not to ride that emotional roller coaster and then not spiral into other areas of your life.
Right. I think that's a huge one, because most people do live the roller coaster of this emotional craziness because of the attachment to results. So I love the way you broke it down. Let's go to the part of showing up, right? So, and I'll set it up. I'll give you an example that for a call that I had 2 weeks ago, right? So I'm speaking with one of a small business owner doing about $1 million in revenue. And the reason I'm saying the amount of money is so other people can relate to it, right? Because most people have smaller businesses. There's a few that really get to a bigger size. So I just want to make sure that it's for everybody. It doesn't matter if your business is doing 100,000, 500,000, or $20 million. It's all good. So when I'm speaking with a business owner, and that happened 2 weeks ago, and he calls me, Idan, listen, my team is so negative. Like, it's very hard for me. I'm trying to build a team and the people are very negative, and then I'm losing people. And I just don't know. I think just the people in my areas are just negative people. And now I know that this is not the case. There's not an area that everybody are negative in, right? There's got to be something there. And he's trying to explain me what's going on and all the issues that his people are having, not him, the people is having. And then at one point I said, okay, something here doesn't make sense to me. Let's walk me through from the moment that you wake up in the morning all the way when you get to see your team, because I had a feeling that something there is missing. And he says, yes, Idan, I do the regular thing. I wake up in the morning, I drink my coffee, and then I get to the office. And then at this point, he told me, you know what? I want to make sure that my team is doing things right. So as I walk in, I'm keep pointing out everything that is not working well. Like everything that they do wrong, I'll point up first thing as I see them in the morning. And then at this point, I said, okay, I'm going to be quiet now. I want you to listen to what you just said. And then at that moment, like he's holding his head, he's like, oh, wow, I'm the one that's creating the negativity, right? So, and the reason I brought that example, because when I'm hearing you, I'm thinking about how you're showing up, even showing up to the office, right? And I'm showing up I'm inspired. I bring up great energy to the office. I want to build up my team. Or I'm showing up to the office expecting to see the negative part and I want them to fix it.
Yeah.
Right? So what type of things from your experience people can do to make sure that they're showing up, with their more empowered self, right?
Yeah.
More positive self.
Well, this is where we have to understand, and if you ever work with somebody, you kind of hope that they understand this too. Like, personality doesn't scale, biology does. So to answer this, really going into our biology. And what I mean by that is, if you understand the mind, how it works, it's built to survive, and it has two main focuses. And that's our fears and our goals. That's just what we're wired to pay attention to. The fears, because we're built for survival, and then goals, what we're trying to create. So if you're like a spotlight focusing your attention on certain things in life, in this case, the team being negative, but you're actually focusing on all the negative aspects of your business, that's like taking half of the goals. You could even say part of the fear too, but your half of you that's also focused on goals. Now your brain is you're controlling your brain to focus on these aspects, and it's going to see more of those. It's I forget the technical term, but when you think about buying a new car and you're looking out and then you realize that car is everywhere, this is how our brains operate. We're like this, we're consciousness in form. And when we tell our mind consciously we're going to focus on something, we're going to see more of that, because then we get our subconscious involved. And that's just how our brains work.
Right. So if he's not aware of it, So for example,
That's
if we go
step
back now, the what?
Yeah. Step one is you're not aware of it. Therefore, it's in your unconscious mind.
Right.
Therefore, you're not seeing how you're going about life in this certain way, and you're kind of stuck in an unconscious rut. We all do it. Like even mammals as a species, different mammals will go, like elephants will raid villages and get drunk. Like reindeers will eat mushrooms. Like as mammals, we get stuck in these ruts because if we break down our biology again, right? Our brains are built to, our bodies were built to survive. We're mammals built to survive. Therefore, we need energy to survive. And what uses the most amount of energy? Well, our brains.
Yeah.
So our subconscious works like business. We emphasize creating systems, and that's our routines. That's our habits. That's how we go through life. So by doing that, we conserve energy, and we have to do something or have somebody like you, Idan, that reflects back to kind of realize, to bring this pattern to the surface. And then we realize, oh yeah, we have been stuck in this rut, whatever it is, like thinking a certain way or doing a certain thing. And then when we do that, we can start the process of transformation.
Right. So, okay. So if we want to bring it now to a real life opportunity for somebody, right? So if the guy that, seeing that everybody's in office being negative, or the guy that being very reactive to the marketing or the cash flow in the bank account and everything. So the way I'm hearing you is, if there is something that is keep happening to me in a way, right, in my day-to-day, so my people always negative, doesn't matter if I bring new people, they're still negative, or I'm losing people, or marketing doesn't work for me. It's a repetitive issue that keep coming back. At this point, once you see that it's keep coming back, and I'm sure that this is something that everybody is going to be able to see, right? At that point, instead of blaming the outside world, right? It's because of my market, it's because of my city, it's because of my employees, all this thing. We're going to start looking at it from part of me creating the same results again and again.
Yeah.
Right. And that is the way to start going inward and not necessarily be stuck in what is in front of me.
No.
Right. That's kind of the first part. Right? Because we're not now telling people go and meditate an hour a day and try to do all the self-awareness stuff. We want to give them access to something fairly quickly, right? So somebody can hear this thing and says, okay, wow, I'm having the same issue again and again in my business, right? It's happening to me. So let me try something new. Instead of blaming the rest of the world, I'm going to take accountability on it for a second. So at this point, when I took accountability, right, let's stay with the example of the guy that thinks always employees negative, but then at the end of the day, he's the one that brings the negativity into the office.
Yeah.
So once I'm aware of it, it's happened to me again and again and again. I stopped for a second. I say, okay, I'm not going to blame everybody. Let me be accountable for it. Probably I'm the one who bring it into the office. So once I did this part now, what will be the second part?
Yeah, well, let me pause you there for a second. Let's just break down like the only thing you have control over. So you finally say, okay, I'm just going to take conscious control. I'm going to be proactive everywhere in my life that I can be. So the three things that you really have like full control over is your beliefs, your behaviors, and your skills. You could say traits or beliefs. So starting with what you said is like, to break that down, everybody's being really negative in the office. Oh, somebody just reflected back, maybe that's me. Oh, that's making me realize there's a new belief that I got stuck in limited thinking that this is the only way.
Oh, okay.
So there's step one. You helped him, first of all, and that's where it's powerful to have somebody reflect or do some kind of exercise where you start to see those limited beliefs for what they are. And then you can break out, oh, wait, no, new belief. That might be how I'm showing up. Okay, so what's next? Well, new beliefs create new behaviors.
Okay.
So you could go deeper, right? Because we can just like patch it with band-aids and be like, yeah, go like read some books on how to be a nicer person and do this. But if we don't get to the core of that limiting belief, because that's our perception on life is built through these beliefs. If we don't get to the core of that, then we're not truly going to change and see that real difference. So once we do that, once we install new beliefs, that installs new behaviors, how we show up. You can show up as a different person because you're going to install a belief that I'm going to highlight all the great things about the business on a daily basis. Let's say, for example. So you're training your brain each day to show up, to acknowledge where the workers are doing awesome and where the business is really doing awesome. That creates new behaviors. And then you can take it a step further and be a conscious creator of what skills you're developing to bring that positivity into the office. And then it's just almost black and white. I build the new beliefs. The new beliefs create new behaviors, new traits. And then I develop more skills to be able to handle or create the situation that I want.
That was great. Yeah, that was a great breakdown. Yeah, I think.
And to go a little bit deeper, just to like really,
Please.
hopefully let this land for people. Like I call it the mental and emotional lead. So the mental lead is the limiting beliefs. I don't know if you ever gave your beautiful talk about rocks, but it's the same exact thing. These rocks, these leads or rocks, however you want to call it, is just holding you down in some way. And mentally, it's just like I shared with the beliefs. And then emotionally, we realize you brought up the example, he actually had a rough morning and then brought that to the office and then was even more pointing out the negative stuff. Well, you can see that the emotional lead is the painful emotions that we hold on to. Like our natural state is to not always allow ourselves to feel it fully and just kind of, emotion is energy in motion. So myself included, I've been notorious for this. Like, I'll just deal with this later. Like this hard situation came up, I'll just deal with it later. Versus like allowing it to work through you. Well, that becomes emotional lead, and that energy is going to somehow affect the rest of your day. If you have an argument with your wife and you go into the office, you're not going to be feeling great and inspired and positive and grateful about how the team is showing up. You're going to be stuck in your emotions. So that's the other aspect too we don't realize is we have these core limiting beliefs and then old emotions or emotions attached with the limiting beliefs. And that's why we get so weighed down versus if you're robots, like robot could just be like, I do and behave only in ways that move me toward my goals. And like that robot is going to find success because it's not weighed down by this mental or emotional lead. It's just going to keep taking work through the process, and when it fails, it learns and it continues.
Right. This was really good. So, when I speak with people about showing up, I touch also separate. I mean, I really love the way you broke it down. But there was another part for me of the level of energy, right? How they're showing up to the. I mean, even with some of the meetings that I had, right? We're sitting for lunch and somebody will eat, a huge steak and that and here and there, and they feel super heavy, and then they go back to the office and the only thing that they feel is, I want to fall asleep now, but they need to sit in a 1 hour meeting, right? Yeah. And I'm telling them, listen, you're not going to be as active in the meeting as you want to be. So you're setting yourself up for failure, not thinking about it. Right? So that's just one example. And we go all the way from, are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Are you drinking enough water? And when I speak to people about it, sometimes their reaction is, okay, Dan, now you're trying to change the way we eat. We don't want to eat like you. You just eat green stuff all the time, right? Just vegetables and fruits all the time. So, and my thing is not to try to change the way they eat. It's just, again, bring more awareness to it.
Yeah.
So this is, I think there is a disconnect between level of energy, right? If I have a lot of energy and I have 5 things to deal with in the office, I'm just going to go through them and get it done. Yeah. But if I have a very low level of energy, 5 looks very overwhelming. By the second one, I'm pretty much exhausted. I'm going to kind of try to do the third thing that I'm supposed to do. And the two other ones I'll push for tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And it's just going to be the same thing again and again. So how do you look at energy? Kind of when you work with people, how do you get them to understand the importance of the level of energy that they bring into to every moment, really?
Well, the truthful way to answer that is experience it, because that's like I'd say one of my specialties, right? Two is really just dissolving the mental emotional lead, the stuff that's weighing you down, and then the second part, if you really want to soar into your potential, then you understand like all you have is time, energy, attention, but energy, like the universe is energy, like everything's an energy currency. But that's going deep for a second. But like to get very practical, you just understand what works for our biology. And this really simple things, movement, plenty of water, greens, all the things, we all kind of know what it means to be healthy.
Yeah.
But what we don't realize, and this is another distinction between, high performers and peak performers, is to get into the peak state of performance, all these things add up. And doing a little bit, 5 to 10 minutes of mindfulness a day is really just brain detoxing, which gives yourself a moment to pause, to let your brain just shut down. And then you get to show up with more focus and motivation for the rest of the day. Same if you don't eat a lot of highly processed food or sugar-based food, because if you understand the metabolism, well, that's just burning up like gasoline on a fire, and then the fire is going to drop down and you're going to have an energy crash. Whereas when somebody starts to look from things, how do I stay in an elevated state of performance? Because like otherwise the hustler, the person who's, I'm going to sprint and get all these things done and then crash and then wake up and do it again and I'll work extra hours, it's okay. Versus I'm going to understand how to keep my energy at an elevated state. And that's where understanding the mind, understanding the body, eating the healthier things and getting movement throughout the day is going to help stack on. You're doing baby incremental steps daily, and that's going to create exponential results. And then if you take it a step further, like, are you doing things for active recovery? Because the real distinction between high performance or, always doing, kind of feeling like you're stuck on the hamster wheel, you're always going and then crashing and then going and crashing, versus like staying at an elevated state, is you understand recovery gets just as important as productivity. Because It's easy to think like, let's just be more productive, let's just do more, let's just create more. Versus if you put in more active recovery, you're not draining your battery. If you just see yourself as like a battery, you're not draining yourself, you're keeping yourself in the green consistently, then you have more energy, more focus, more you're not as, when we get really tired and hungry, it's easy to get pulled by hard situations or not hitting the business goals. But if you can keep yourself in this green state consistently, well, you actually have more energy to show up.
Right. 1000%. Yeah, just helping people to connect between the two, right? That's because I agree with you. And I think you said in the beginning, people know what it means to be healthier, right? We're not telling them anything new. It's just connecting the two together, right? Again, it's bringing more awareness into how I feel, how I'm showing up, how I'm dealing with this, have a huge impact on my ability to build relationship, be successful. I mean, everything that we want to be able to do in life, right?
Yeah.
So it's not connecting the two. So another thing that usually come up, and this is kind of, I want to hear your way of working with people, is, some people will say, you know what, I have so many bad habits. Like, I'm so far from what you're trying to tell me. And in their mind, they want to, or they're going to be where we're like peak performing type of being, or at zero, right? So I'm at zero now. If I cannot get to 100 in a month, I better stay at zero. right? That's usually is the same thing as New Year resolution. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
lose 40 pounds. I'm gonna run 10 miles. I'm gonna do all the things that I never did in my life. I'm gonna do all of them in 1 month. And usually my response is like, okay, can you choose one and just do 10th of it for a week, but maybe then start building on top of it,
No.
right? But there is this I think it's a little bit on the crazy side of trying to, it's this immediate satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
I want to be healthy and I want to lose 50 pounds and I want to do great tomorrow morning,
No.
right?
Yeah.
That's usually what I see that stops a lot of people from kind of taking that leap forward. So how do you help people close the gap? Kind of how you talk to people to go through this part of slowly getting there?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's come back to the process we've been going through. Like, let's bring awareness to the fact that we live in society today where we're rewarded for convenience and like immediate satisfaction. So like it's kind of ingrained in our culture. And if we just see this as like, oh, there's like this force outside of us that like wants us to have this. Okay, first of all right, so there's this pull in us already. All right, that's there. Next, it's back to process. Like it is really like my whole life, my father passed at the age of 11, and I just like became a student of like trying to understand life and studying those who did dedicated their whole lives to the same. It all comes back to life is the journey. So like there is no, you're not going to automatically be in your peak state of performance. And I get caught sometimes too. It's just natural of like, I'm just going to make a huge leap into this next evolution.
Yeah.
Versus like just practicing getting better at the process, whether that's being you or whatever it is. So once again, like, how do you get exponential results? That's really, if we're like underneath what we're saying you want, right? You want to just get from here to there exponentially. Well, exponential results is having exponential insights. So like a big idea, but then taking incremental steps daily. Yeah. So it's literally the smallest right next step that you can take. Have you ever seen 𝗲𝗂 2 or Frozen? I have little girls. Take the next right step. And, Atomic Habits is a great resource if you really want to break this down. And this is like how I help people. But it's like, if you want to run a marathon and you don't even run a mile, you don't start by running 5 miles. You're going to break your body down, and then you're going to beat yourself up because it was so hard. And then you're going to give up and throw your shoes in the trash. What you do is you break it down till it's so stupid silly that you can't take the next right move, that it's like almost like really like, so for example, with the marathon, you start by buying running shoes and just wearing them 5 minutes a day through your house.
I love it.
And then you build it up, and then you walk around the block, and then you walk a little 10 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then you jog 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you just see it's just this little incremental steps. And that's how you really make a change. And something recently too that's really shifted my perspective. And this comes back to how our brains operate, right? Like we're built subconscious with habits. So if you want to start a new habit, there's only like maybe 5 to 10% of people that just have the willpower to just like do whatever they say they're going to do, like David Goggins. But the rest of us, we have to understand we only have time, energy, and willpower. Like those are our most limited resources. So if we're going to when it comes to willpower, it's the same thing as like thinking with Atomic Habits or like the simple step. Like what's the routine you can do on a daily basis so you don't have to think about, it's not like a willpower. Okay. So what can you stack on to what you're already doing? Let's say you're not getting much movement. Well, maybe lunchtime, maybe you just go walk to grab food every day. Or maybe you want to show up with more positivity. So you could use a gratitude practice, because gratitude is really powerful to help you reframe any situation. Well, do 5 minutes of gratitude the first cup of coffee that you get. Just sit down and feel and think about what you're grateful for in the moment. So if you could just see what you're doing already, and then stack a new routine on top of that, and then allow yourself to be okay to just be slow and steady and build and build, you will get there way faster. Tortoise in the hair. You're going to get there way faster than if you just sprint, crash.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, even with my own life, I mean, I took that approach of building it slowly over a long period of time. And even today, when people see me, the way I work out or the way I eat or kind of the way I structure my day, when they look at me, they think like, wow, how can you be so disciplined and get all the things done? And I'm saying, listen, it took me 10 years to build them. Yep. So I did exactly the same thing, right? Hiking, got the shoes, put them on, put them off. I mean, it's funny. I just work with somebody and she's trying to get into a workout and thing. And I told her, start with a minute a day. And she laughed. She's like, are you crazy? I want to work an hour a day. What do you mean a minute a day? I'm not going to lose weight. It's going to take so long. So I told her, listen, for how many years now you've been trying to work 1 hour a day? And that's the big goal that you set up. Oh, Idan, I've been trying to do it since I was like 20 years old. And she's 40 something years old. I said, okay. Yeah. So for 20 something years, try to jump into 1 hour a day. It didn't work. Let's try the 1 minute. And a month in, she's now doing a workout every day for about 25 minutes. So And I know that a lot of people think that it's crazy, but again, I love the way you break it down. It can be very, very simple. Yeah. Right? These 5 minutes or even 1 minute when I'm holding the coffee in the morning, it's like just recognize it, being thankful that I have the coffee, appreciate, enjoy the taste, take it all in. These simple things that we do during the day can make a huge difference.
Yeah, because it's just like business. Like it's about momentum. You're not going to go from making 100K in a year in the business to making 5 million. Like you have to hit the milestones, 100K to 250K to 1 million to 1.5, whatever the path is.
Yeah.
But you're not just gonna, it's the same, like if you're at the 6-figure mark and you're not breaking through, well, you know, that's where mental and emotional lead comes in. But also like, it's just like systematic, slowly building getting better and better at the things you can control versus the things you can't control. And over time, you're going to hit the milestones and you're going to get that growth.
Yeah. And the thing is that first of all, I look at discipline as freedom, right? Because as I have more discipline in my life, I have more freedom to do really the things that I want to do. So I don't look at discipline as something that, I need to be disciplined. It's very hard and all that. No, there is a way to do it. But I think the simplicity of it, right? And have more of a long-term thinking about it. That's a big thing. So when we go to business owner in building a team, right, really understand who is the people that I need, how I'm going to work with them, how I'm going to do it over a long period of time, really developing the culture that I want to develop. Or if it's marketing or managing the cash flow in the business, that approach really apply to everything, right? Because the approach is really happening through us. So if we set ourselves right, with everything that we talked about, everything else, we just, in a way, will fall into place. But then it doesn't mean that, shit will not happen, right? It doesn't mean that from that point, marketing is going to be perfect and cash flow is everything is going to be perfect. It's not what we're trying to say. We're saying, focus on the process. Things will come in, and instead of being very reactive, you're going to have the strength, the emotional strength even, to be able to say, okay, I understand that this just happened. I'm going to be able to step away from the business for a second, look at the bigger picture, and then my decisions and the follow-up action will be a lot more proactive, with a good mindset of not trying to fix everything today, just building better processes so I can scale up my business.
Yeah.
Right?
And to add on top of that, like perfectly said, like you can take the Stoic philosophy, and that's really like, okay, you have a situation that maybe you don't want in the business, and it really comes down to, first of all, is this thing within my control or outside of my control? Wait, this is outside of my control. Okay, this is where, and it's really hard. I know we both work on this and we talk about it all the time, is accepting or allowing that this is what happened and it couldn't happen any other way because it didn't.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's this is the Stoic philosophy, to accept the things you cannot control and then acknowledge the things you can control. And when it comes to the things you can't control, to just take that next right step. And you do that. And this is how we get into flow in life. I have this poster on my wall. One circle is discipline, the other is surrender, and the middle is flow. And we're all just looking for more flow. And you know, even science shows our biology, when we get to a deep flow state, that we unlock like one of the greatest neural cocktails of feel-good chemicals, and it's just so rewarding for us.
Yeah. So flow is the feeling that I am present, I'm engaged, I'm in whatever I'm doing, in whatever is in front of me.
Yeah.
Right? And when we are fully engaged, fully present, there is another part of us that, in a way, not wakes up, but gets more room to work through us.
Yeah.
And then this is where things just get beautifully
effortless happening, creation, in a way, flow through us, right? So that's really the ultimate state that we want to get to when we are meeting with our team, building a business, doing whatever we want to do, because that will, when we are in that state, the place of reactiveness or being a victim doesn't even exist. Nope.
Right?
Because you're so lost in the present moment doing the task at hand.
Right. And to get to that moment, everything that we talked about need to fall in place, right? So that's where we focus on the process itself, is the way I wake up, the way I eat, my movement, my gratitude practice, and on and on and on. That's really building blocks to get to this point.
Yeah. And what you don't realize, like I've done extensive research on the state of flow. When psychologists call it the ultimate state of consciousness, where we feel and perform at our best, that's like red flag, like we should be paying attention to that. But what we don't realize, like to work with somebody to allow them to actually get very practical, like actual flow state, more of that in their lives, like it starts with a fixed versus growth mindset. And that's all we're talking about here, really. This has been the whole, what we've been talking about. You can have a fixed mindset. These are how things are. And these, because I believe this is how things are, it's going to be, versus like growth mindset, which is I can learn new behaviors. I can learn new beliefs. I can learn new skills. And with time, because if you're truly committed, remember a robot will eventually get to the goals because it's not weighed down by these other things. And the only variable is time. So we can see that by opening up our beliefs, by installing new ones, allowing ourselves to have time to develop the trait and the skills, like we're going to get there.
Right. Absolutely. And I think the last part, for me at least, is it is a business owner or you know, a father, a mother, really anybody that kind of want to do the work that we covered. And at a certain point, when you start feeling these feelings, right, the flow and the openness and all that, you want to start sharing it with people around you, right? And this is the part where I see, and myself as well, right? I can go back, I discovered the thing, there's a state, I'm feeling amazing, everybody have to do it around me. And then you're creating this resistance from the other side because you're really trying to get people in, right? And what I learned is just when you're in that flow, people will come to you and ask, can you tell me, because I want some of what you got, right? So that's another way to approach it. But when you come to the business, then it's a little bit more tricky, right? Because I think, I mean, from everything that we're saying, we want that to be part of the culture that we build in the business, right? So if I can get my entire team to be in a flow state, I know that our growth will be amazing, right? So do you have experience of kind of working with one person in the team and then slowly bring it to other people on the team, kind of how we're trickling it in the way we're meeting with our team, in the way we're communicating it, with kind of bringing it as part of the meetings? Because I know that some of the business owner, I mean, especially with some of the one that I know, will say, okay, that's amazing, I'm going to follow everything, I want to do it, but I want to bring it to my team as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So I mean, I typically work one-on-one, but then you can apply this to your business and everything else. And what we don't realize, like, we're talking about flow, and I like to break it down of like there's spiritual flow and practical, like the actual flow state, which you can get into. And there is group flow. Group flow is actually known as like the most addictive state on earth. Because just to really quickly break it down, like, we think we're adrenaline junkies. We're not. Too much adrenaline in your system isn't actually that fun. We're flow junkies. And then what happens is when you get into group flow, it releases oxytocin on top of all these other neural feel-good chemicals. So we feel more bonded with the people that we're working with, and we just all drop in together. It's like when you have that really great meeting and everybody's on the same page and they're just firing off idea after idea. So yeah, there are, biologists and psychologists have been able to break down the flow triggers, like what allows us to get more flow. So with things like group flow, there's a couple more triggers than just for personal flow. So absolutely, it's just things like having shared goals. And if I really had to keep it simple, there's like 19 to 21 traits, but if I had to keep it really simple, like shared goal, there's no losing. Nobody can like setting it up in a way that nobody loses. Let's just say in a meeting context, a shared goal, shared outcome that you're pursuing towards. There's no idea of failing. Like, everybody has a fair share, to be open. It's kind of like fixed mindset once again.
Yeah.
And lastly, that the not follows focus. I'd have to come back to that, because it, yeah.
So what we've been doing, and I kind of will connect it to what you're saying, right? That's going to be another step for business owners. So what we started to do is we use a system that called OKR, right? So that's kind of key objective and result that we want to achieve as a company, right? So we create the overall goals and vision, everything that we want to create for the company, and then we break it for every department and their managers, right? And there, at that point, we give them the freedom to come up with what they believe as a department they need to do to be able to achieve this goal. Yeah. And once they achieve this goal, this is how it's going to trickle up to the second department, and they have the freedom of creating their own internal lead goals to reach that objective.
Yep. And so I can break that down. Just really quick, I could break that down. And what I was going to say, distraction was the third part. So like making sure there's no distractions if it's just in a meeting context is going to allow you, because flow follows focus. So any distractions pulls you out of a flow state. And then what you're saying is clear goal breakdown, part of it, right? So we don't have to think about what we're doing as an organization or personally. We just get to show up and execute. And that's how you actually get into the practical flow state, as well as autonomy. So being able to have some power or control over the organizational goals or whatever it is, the process, or, as a team, as a manager, well, that gives you a sense of empowerment, which unlocks more motivation, which gets you more focused, and that's going to allow you to drop into flow. So that's like some of the triggers that you were doing that allow group flow to show up.
Right. And what we've been seeing over the years is, even if we have somebody at customer service that before he saw himself as, I'm just answering the phones. That's really what I'm here to do. I'm coming at 5, I'm out at 3 or 4, and I'm just answering the phone. And by doing this practice, we showed him that he's not answering the phone. I mean, he is actually answering the phone, but what he does, he gives an opportunity for the franchise owner now to build a business. He is helping the person in the marketing department to make sure that they have the higher quality of leads. And he's really helping taking all the investment that we made in marketing and convert it into an opportunity for the franchisee to build a business, support his family and the community.
Yep.
So now we took somebody that looked at himself as I'm just answering the phone, that now he's saying, oh no, wow, I'm really helping this company, my company, right? Because now it's his company, it's not my company, it's our company, because he's part of setting up everything. I'm helping converting all the investment and creativity and opportunity for franchisees to grow their business, support their community. Now the part that I'm playing with the company is huge.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So now we were able to elevate everybody, and we're saying, I don't care if you cleaning the floor, because you're creating an environment now that everybody can perform better. You're not just cleaning the floor. And the person that answering the phone, you're not just answering the phone, you're doing this amazing process that help everybody grow.
Yep.
And the marketing person is not just putting an ads out for the universe, is actually trying to find people that need help and get them help as fast as we can.
Yeah.
So now everybody is elevated, right? So what you're saying is what we actually see as we grow in the company.
And
right?
that's two things right there, right? That's, first of all, pouring flow onto an organization or personally, like getting more access to flow state is like pouring gasoline on the fire.
Yeah.
And then you just broke down what we started, like what the theme has been today, right? Beliefs, behaviors, skills. Like, because you expanded the beliefs, the limited belief that this is just my role and it doesn't make a positive impact on the rest of the organization. You expanded that to, I am a critical part of this organization. That's going to create new traits of how they show up, and they're going to develop even more skills to look out for, like, more ways they could help the business. And then that's when you have the cohesive unit. And then when you have the cohesive unit and you pour access to more flow, people are going to feel more engaged. They're going to feel happier, because just when we get lost in time and do the things we love, or feel like we're making a lot of progress, like we feel more fulfilled. And then people are going to show up with more motivation. And this is the momentum that really gets things to take off.
Yeah. Yeah. Momentum is such a big word for me, because I mean, I've been seeing it working. I see it working. And I think there is something special that is not outside of our control, but there is, as we like to call it, there is a magic happening at a certain point, right?
Yeah.
When things are falling into place and there is another power that comes in and just take everything forward.
Yeah.
Right? So momentum is something that is very, very important to build, to be aware of, right? And build it as part of the way we're executing on plans, right? So for me, a lot of the time is like, don't worry, just go, right? Go. I mean, we have the clarity, we know what we're moving toward, but there is a moment of, let's just take this small step forward.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because that's what this is the thing that we can control today. We control how we show up, we control what we give our attention to, right? And we can control how much we are in the present moment, really pushing it forward.
Time.
Without an attachment to the end result, because this is where the craziness is coming in.
Yeah. And I'm a visual person, so you could literally visualize a flywheel, whether that's your business or yourself. And it's like, in the beginning, it's going to be clunky. Like, you're like hard labor to get it going. And then like incremental kicks is going to slowly get it spinning. And then before you know it, it's spinning at a high rate. Right. And you just have to keep the same kicks going. And that goes with yourself. That goes with doing the little, stacking on many health things, eating one salad at lunch, drinking an extra glass of water, going for an extra walk, and you keep stacking on. You're giving a kick to the flywheel. And you're speeding up the energy that's available, or the momentum in the business. It's the same thing. And you're just focused on the process of keeping that going.
That was really good.
Yeah.
That was really good. Cool. So I mean, I don't have anything else that I want to bring up. I think for people that hearing it, I mean, it's, for a lot of people, it's new, right? Because they have the old way of, this is how business is done and that's it, right? So, but really, my hope, and I think, David, you did an amazing work in really simplifying the steps, right? And taking away this crazy idea that I need to get there tomorrow. That it's not about when we're gonna get there, because it's, and one of the things that we discuss, when you're gonna get and where you're gonna get is not even as important as we think it is.
I know.
Right? It's not even as important, because the joy, the part is being in it every day.
Yeah.
Right. So it's about right now. It's about today. It's about the process. It's about how we're showing up. Yeah. Cool.
Joy in the journey. If there's one thing I could just leave whoever's, you're listening to this right now, just find more joy in the journey and just see life as a journey. And it's just step by step, you get better. But more you can come back to the present moment and find ways, expand your viewpoint and find joy and cultivate joy. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
1,000% with you. Cool, man. So that was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easier than we thought it's gonna be. Cool. Yeah, David, thank you very, very much. This was very, very helpful. And we're gonna add the link to your website, Instagram. I know I saw you lately sharing a lot of great things on Instagram and a lot of short videos that I think is very, very helpful. And we'll make sure that we're sending people your way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.